Hi everyone, this is Kes Rodrigues from HR and it's Workplace Wellbeing Day, and we have prepared a lightning talk that will be looking at the pillars of high performance within the workplace, as recommended by EXOS, which consists of 4 pillars: mindset, nutrition, movement, and recovery. This talk aims to inspire you and others to think of high performance in all aspects of their lives. High performance doesn't have to be for an elite field, it can be for everyone, no matter where you are in your day, week, or your life. So before we explore this idea together, I'll introduce you Adam Crowther, the Student Service Manager at DBS, who was a performance coach before his time at DBS and has worked with this EXOS model before. We also have Hamza Razaq, or Welfare Officer, to give us some insights. So let's get started. Hi, Adam.
How are you doing, Kes?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, I'm good. I'm looking forward to chatting with you today.
So the first question is, can you explain to me what high performance is within the workplace?
Okay, so high performance to me consists of all the kind of small things that build up into the bigger things. So it's total quality in or being world class at all the small things and how that relates into the big factors of a working environment. So for me as well, it relates to taking individual responsibility for your own goals and fulfilling your own potential. And I suppose essentially a high performance culture is built on the things like growth mindset, which promotes, I suppose, the environment where employees are focused on making improvements for themselves and the people around them. And I think that high performance is obviously stolen from a sports context, but I think there's a lot of things that can be begged, borrowed, and stolen from the sports environment around these 4 pillars, which is mindset, nutrition, movement, and recovery. And I think those 4 elements built in with togetherness and team ethos are, I think, essential into the workplace. And I think you're going to see more of this performance elements coming into the work environment in the near future.
Interesting. Would you like to add something, Hamza?
I think Adam, that was really quite interesting, and it's very interesting that you mentioned that it's kind of related to sports in that aspect. And I know a lot of people who are probably listening to this straight away think, well, how is that related to sports? Like, I don't go at 8 o'clock on a Thursday to go train on how to do an Excel sheet. Like, I don't go and meet a bunch of my friends and start, training and hitting the gym for work, or on the weekend and going out training for work on the weekend. There is that kind of disposition there with kind of the mindset, but perhaps that's something that can come in the future, and that's why it's like your mindset, depending on what your work is. Now, obviously, it doesn't apply to every field, but why that mindset of how good you want to be at your job and what you're willing to do to be that good. So yeah, like the small little things, the small things lead to the big results. So definitely agree with Adam on that.
Nice, thanks for that. So next question, why is mindset so important within the workplace?
Yeah, I think this is, when I've worked with the EXOS model before, it was something that really fascinated me, was the mindset, particularly in high performing athletes. They're known for the steely kind of mind and how they don't fold under pressure and cope under times of adversity and so on. And for me, like, mindset is the lens in which you probably see yourself, you see the environment, you see the stressors that relate to you on a daily basis. And I think probably the most important element of mindset is your ability to how you deal with this and operate within the work that you do, whether it be sports, whether it be a job in management or a program manager, or if you're looking after people, whatever it might be. I think that's what mindset really does. And I think a lot of it has to do with the element of self-efficacy. So how you're able to, I suppose, believe in what you do and how you can do it, and I suppose navigate that within the work environment. And I think that's really, really important. And another thing about mindset is not only around reflection, but, and I think this is going to be a bigger thing, I think, in the near future, or coming down the road of performance within the workplace, is people reflecting on themselves within the work environment throughout the week. So how was your performance in work today? You know, what did you do well? What did you not do well in the way that I suppose sports stars would be, their performances will be analysed. And I think you're going to see more of that with the, you know, the culture of performance coming into the work environment. And I think, you know, people might not think it's a positive thing, but I think it's quite healthy that people are maybe being more efficient and effective and having higher output within their job, and something that they're, you know, proud of. But I think broadly, like, my main points around mindset is having a game plan, a big picture for yourself within the organization. So what do you see your role as? What's the vision and strategy and objectives of the company? Are you working to those tactics of the, you know, you look at it when a team environment, the coach has a plan of a culture that the company or the team want to work towards. And, you know, do you see yourself within that big picture? Another thing as well, mindset, when I work with athletes, they've done a thing called visualizing your perfect performance. And I think it's a really, really interesting point to think about. And sometimes, you know, it's something I practice myself. I would visualize what a great day is and what are the elements of a perfect day. Like arriving to work in a state of full preparedness. So you're well rested, hydrated, you know, you're motivated, you've got tasks, you've got, like, you know, interactions with people that you're going to rely on, and everything in a positive light. And I think it's something that probably people don't do. And I would invite people to maybe, you know, explore that, of what a perfect day looks like within the work environment, because sometimes we don't, you know, picture a perfect day in work, but, you know, we spend a lot of our time in the work environment. So what does that work with? Another point I'd maybe like to add is coping with challenges of the work environment. And when I worked with athletes, it was always something that was big in their agenda, how you overcome stress, because they would be playing in, you know, big fixtures. They'd be able to tolerate the stress load, and they would have, I suppose, techniques and actions that they would do that would help them maybe center themselves and, you know, not get overwhelmed, not let their heart rate get the best of them. Things like deep breathing and things like that to be able to manage themselves. And there's kind of two more points I want to make around mindset that I think are really, really important for not just us here, but people beyond, is the notion of positive self-talk as well. And when I worked with athletes, a lot of them had positive affirmation cards, so they'd have personal statements that they would read to themselves, and it would reflect around their own skills, and that builds kind of self-confidence. So things would be like, I'm a hard worker, you know, I've got high energy, and, you know, I trust the skills that I have. And I think reminding yourself of what you're good at, I think, is actually something that helps build a positive mindset. So taking the time to maybe reflect on what you're good at, I think really, really pays dividends in the long run. So that idea of positive self-talk is really, really important, and it helps detract from negative maybe behaviors around within groups, where, you know, maybe self-doubt for yourself and so on. And I think they're really, really important overall in building mindset. So stealing from the sports industry and bringing it into the workplace, I think, transfers really well.
Oh, very nice. Thanks for that. And how can you use mindset to overcome challenges in the workplace and build confidence in yourself?
Yeah, so when I work with the EXOS model, we essentially developed this kind of mindset toolkit. So kind of what I spoke about earlier about the positive self-talk, that was a key part of it. But even before that, all of the athletes, along with the coach and the different, you know, sections within a team, would have a game plan. So the game plan would be, if it's work related or the day related or match related or training related or preparation related, they would have a game plan of what they want to achieve. So essentially their goals and objectives as an individual and as a group, and everything actions, tasks and preparation were all aligned to that. And this idea of self-talk as well should be part of your toolkit. You know, having a positive culture, positive, you know, behaviors and actions, and even the way you talk and communicate, that all goes into building a positive culture around your organization, around your team, around your people, and you know, I suppose the customers that you deal with. We're all ambassadors in our own rights at every minute of every day. So them type of things, you know, feed into the culture. And I suppose in overcoming the challenges, I spoke briefly about the, you know, visualization of the perfect day. I think that's really important. Visualization of your perfect performance. What does a perfect day look like for you? How do you behave during a perfect day? And that's where you see high performance. And another thing I'd like to say, I think it's really important within the workplace, like your question relates, how do you build confidence and how do you overcome challenges? We had a really good model with the EXOS thing, and it's called the Ipr model. Okay, so it's about reframing stressors. Okay, so you're faced with a variable in work. Maybe it's a difficult customer. Maybe you've a breakdown in communication with a colleague. Maybe it's frustration with someone not getting back to you. And the IPR stands for I is identify the stressor. So, you know, what is that doing for you? How are you internalizing it? How can you, you know, can you affect the outcome of it? Is it a controllable variable or not? The P then is for pause. So it's not reacting or not getting emotional and regulating yourself, taking that time to pause and breathe and not dealing on emotion. And the R then is reframing and making a choice. So how can you empathize? Maybe the person's going through something else. Maybe there's nothing you can do because it's out of your control. And you know, it's maybe thinking rationally rather than emotionally. And I think that's really, really important. And it's a really good model that was used with EXOS. And I think it was so important for making the right choices for people who are in a high performance state.
That's interesting. Would you like to add anything, Hamza?
No, I think what Adam said there is kind of like hit the nail on the head for a lot of the stuff. I know for some people it might be very difficult to kind of imagine, like, how does this kind of mindset challenge, how does that fit from athletes to the workplace? You know, athletes are getting instant real-time feedback, or they can watch a highlight of their game or anything like that. You know, those elite athletes who are playing like Premiership football or whatever, like maybe this applies to them, and how does this apply to us? I think one of the ways you can try and get this to apply to yourself as well is give yourself that feedback, be your own coach. This is where it comes back to kind of, you know, the positive self-talk and still kind of, you know, getting rid of the defeatist attitude and more of the attitude of, okay, well, what can I do? And what's the best day for me? And give yourself that feedback and be your own kind of mind coach or life coach in that aspect. And granted, it's not going to turn you into like example, Adam, like if I were to ask you, like, you know, what is the office equivalent of scoring a hat trick in football?
Yeah.
Like it's hard to, I mean, you can probably have a similar feeling, like you overcame a challenge or you achieved something. But there's no like direct kind of bridge between the two, is there? So it's up to yourself then to see, okay, well, what is that equivalent for me? And it'll be different for everyone else as well. So that comes down to your mindset, and that's one of the challenges that you have to overcome, is that how do you build that within yourself? How do you build that, you know, bridge for yourself that gives you that confidence, that gives you that kind of stability, but also you can constantly be getting feedback for yourself, because that's where it's really at, you know. So that would be my insight on that.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so let's explore nutrition. Why is it important?
Well, nutrition fuels performance. It's absolutely essential. It supports the mind, the body, and it balances your ability to perform well and react to the daily stressors that we're all exposed to each and every day. I don't think we take nutrition as seriously as we should, particularly in the work environment. I kind of feel, I know myself, I'm guilty of it, that we maybe make way too many bad decisions throughout each day for positive reasons, I guess, because you're sharing a cake, or you're going for a takeaway lunch together, and that can be challenging to kind of turn away from. But I suppose maybe before I go into it, like what would your eating habits be like, guys? What would, like, early morning, would you would you grab a coffee for your morning meal, or would you be grabbing fast food at lunch, or ordering takeaways kind of regularly? Or perhaps, I know I'm guilty of it, is skipping lunch or eating at my desk, which is such a bad habit to have. But fundamentally, like these habits are sabotaging your performance within the workplace, and they're counterproductive to high performing output. Like I'd be curious to know how you guys
I think I eat way better when I'm working from home, because you get to cook your meal and you have your usual healthy snacks in the fridge. You have your fruits, and I think it's much easier to keep a balanced diet at home. Sometimes I'm here in the office and the office is just right in front of Lidl, and if I'm hungry, first thing I'm going to do is just cross the road and grab a cookie. I know I could get fruits, but you just walk in there and you smell everything, and it could be better, and I know I have to work on it. But
and they put the bakery right at the front, so it's right there actually.
It's not
they put the eggs in the milk at the very back, so you have to walk through everything.
But now I have in my desk a bag of mixed nuts, and that's what I try to snack on it. But then when they're finished, I go for the cookies.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And what about you, Hamza?
It's kind of weird for me. So because right now it's Ramadan, so I'm fasting. So I haven't been snacking or nibbling or anything like that at all. But normally when I'm working from home, that's when my diet is not as good. I think it's just because they're I don't know, maybe it's just because you're wearing more comfortable clothes, or that you're just constantly either going to the kitchen then, or getting a snack or something, and it just feels like that. But I wouldn't be a big jellies and that kind of thing person anyway. I usually skip breakfast. I'd have lunch and I'll have dinner.
So you skip breakfast?
Okay. Yeah, unless it's the weekend. In the weekend, I make I eat enough breakfast on the weekend that covers the rest of the 5 days.
Yeah,
that's my logic. Eat it all of the 5 days, breakfast on Saturday.
Yeah, well, and actually that's an interesting way to look at it as well. I think people sometimes look at the calorie intake for the day, and I actually would argue that sometimes you should look at your calorie intake for the week. Because you're
gonna have higher and lower days.
So exactly. So men should have 2,500 calories a day, the average man. So multiply that by 7. That gives you it's probably 1,600, 1,700, whatever. Look at that over the course of a week, and there's days you're going to overindulge, and days you can maybe cut back, and perhaps that's a better way. But in terms of why this is a pillar, is that it's so important. As I mentioned, it fuels your body, and your body is there to give you all the strength and focus that you need to, I suppose, to do the tasks that make you a high performer. But in order to do this, it does take planning. You need quality foods, definitely proper hydration each day. Good food choice are really difficult to make, because you need to keep your high energy levels up, and to help you stay focused during the day. And I think the important part is your immunity too, boosting yourself, and that's a big part of staying in work and not being off sick, that type of stuff. But part of the EXOS model and working with athletes, nutrition is absolutely essential, and I think that athletes are obsessed with their food, obsessed with getting the right stuff in, measuring what their macros and all this type of stuff. And I think it's just neglected probably in the workplace, that people don't see themselves as high performers, and they should really, because it's they can do work to a high level and have lives to a high level just by looking after themselves. So I suppose, using the EXOS model, what would a high performance day look like, or a balanced day look like? And I suppose there's no right answer to anyone, because everyone has their own unique tastes and stuff that agrees with them and doesn't, and stuff that's suitable and sustainable to them as well. But they do have some fundamental rules to live by, which I think are really important. They have a couple of pillars, colorful vegetables. It's just an essential. They say eat a rainbow often, so you can have as much kind of vegetables and fruit as you really want. More colors the better. And I think it's really important having variety in what you eat as well. And they have a kind of a model where you should try to eat 30 different things a week, which is that's food sources. So how many times a week would you have porridge? So you're having the same thing 5 days a week, or eggs. So it's not just having the solids same food, you know, day in day out. It's actually having more variety, because that's better for your gut, for you know, all the nutrients and macro and micronutrients that you need to kind of survive and have, you know, healthy bones and skin and all this type of stuff. Obviously, high quality protein is very important as well. Getting that from your lean meats, your fishes, your omega 12s, and all this type of thing. Really, really important for yourself for your recovery and to support your body. And a key part as well is water, and obviously hydration is absolutely essential. And I think something that people overlook is hydrating foods, which is like plenty of your kind of, you know, your fructose and your kind of watermelons and things like that. And there can be a lot of water in them. It's not just about drinking, you know, buckets and buckets of water that you're going to live healthy. It's having nutritious food as well that can you know, help you I suppose stay full and stay focused and energized with you know, blood sugars as well. I think a key thing is avoiding liquid calories at all costs. So I think it's an important thing for people in the work environment, not to be, you know, drinking energy drinks, or, you know, minimize probably the teas and coffees and that type of stuff, because particularly smoothies and things, like, it's probably loaded with calories that you probably don't need, and so on. But they do have some really, and some of the good things about nutrition that I'd love to share that probably not a lot of people know. Portion sizes, so really, really important. People, that's probably the biggest factor for weight gain, is probably, you know, what you're eating, and sorry, not what you're eating, is how much you're eating. So portion sizes, so your carbohydrate or your starches. So clench your fist. So a clenched fist of cooked, no, not dry, because I used to do this, if it's dried rice of a clenched fist versus cooked, it's very, very different. But clenched, so you have a rice or potato or vegetables, clenched fist, that's the portion size on your plate. Protein should be the palm of your hand. So that's your fish, that's your, you know, turkey, any other kind of lean meats. And your fat source, okay, which would be nuts, oils, you know, seeds, which would be high in kind of fat content, is the tip of your tongue. So where your nail is in your tongue, that's the size of the measurement for that, because they're high in kind of calories per unit, let's say. And so on. So they're your kind of portion size, which are really important. Actually, your plate will be probably very small in that sense, but you can snack on as much fruit and vegetables as you like, really. So I think that's really, really important. But one tip I'd like to share with everyone is actually probably, while you're in work, is being mindful of what you're eating, what you're consuming. So maybe when you are taking a meal or about to consume something, or, you know, thinking of your day ahead, maybe just 5 to 10 seconds thinking of the nutritional value of what you're going to take on. And the reason I say that is because, like, that affects the rest of your day. If you skip breakfast, Hamza, for example, that's going to catch up with you in the rest of the day. That means you're going to be, you know, reaching something like what Kes said there, that's readily available. It's a cookie because you need a sugar fix, or it's, you know, you can't wait for the next meeting, so you just have to grab something and you'll take whatever. And sometimes, particularly later in the afternoon or the evening, the effects of skipping a meal can maybe come back to bite you, and that can have a prolonged effect on your working week as well. So that's why I think nutrition is so important for people to think, switch on with their nutrition, is because it fuels your body, and it can also break down your body if it's not done rightly. And if you don't have that, if you're not, you know, in a physical state of preparedness with your body, you can't really perform in the workplace. So I think people really need to switch on to this and, you know, make better choices, you know, throughout the week.
It's actually something I've noticed in the last 2 years, and it's something that we all used to do, is that we used to bring in lunch. And I noticed this up in Castle House, that we would go up and, you know, people from all the departments were there, and I would say 90% of people had brought their own lunch, and somewhat prepared, you know, way. And there was a community aspect to that, obviously, having, like, you know, sitting down and eating together. But it generally was healthier. And it's mainly because when you're making the food, you're more cautious about what you're putting in there, and you're a bit more wary of, like, what you're doing. But when you just go and buy, like, a little packet of something, you don't really know what's in there. You just get it. So I would say, yeah, let's bring the packed lunches back, you know, and just everyone bringing in whatever they have made or whatever beforehand, but just make it yourself. That's, like, the biggest kind of nutrition control tip thing that I learned. And like, I mean, I love to cook and all, but like when I'm making it myself, I'm very cautious about what's going in there. Or when I'm at a restaurant, I don't care what's in there. Or like if I'm going to take away, I don't care. So it's important to kind of keep an eye on what you're putting in, because that's what you're going to use to put out stuff, like as in your energy output. So you are what you eat. It's the famous line.
Agreed.
Hashtag bring the lunch to work.
Man, Kes, we used to do it, the whole team. Yeah. But then we stopped it when Laura Stafford joined the office.
Okay, now so let's talk about the importance of movement.
Yeah, and I suppose this is an interesting one. So obviously, in a high performance context, in a sporting environment, it's very different to, well, it is and isn't different to, you know, the work environment. But I still believe movement is such an important part of having a high performing day and being a high performing individual. So like movement is essential to your performance. It helps you maximize your brain and your body capacities. Like when your body sits for too long, it tenses up. You get aches, you get pains, you become, I certainly do, I become uncomfortable. And, you know, you kind of lose focus and you're not really yourself. And this, it's simple, it's because you haven't moved. So your body wants to be moving. And even at a more basic level, you know, the movement helps you regulate your emotions. It helps you cope with the stressors that you've been dealing with. And it gives you much more energy to be creative too. So it's, but an important thing, I'm not talking about this in the context of getting to the gym or, you know, crushing it on your work break or anything like that. But there are simple things that can be done, you know.
Yeah, I agree. One thing that I started doing now every day after work, when I'm working from home, of course, so I turn off my computer and I go for a walk, and I walk for an hour. And then I get home and I feel fresh. So yeah, it's good.
I like that. That's basics.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a walk. Just go, especially now that the weather is getting nicer and it's taking longer to get dark. So highly recommend. So what movements should people be doing?
Well, there's no right answer here, but it's like moving yourself around is the main piece. So, and I think this is especially important during working hours. You know, you see people stagnant during the daytime, and it's just important to get moving and being smarter with your working environment, I think. So, like obviously, strength training and mobility and building up your core strength are essential ways and probably optimal ways to make yourself feel better in the right environment. You don't want to be down and in the middle of the castle house going down and doing a few push-ups or jumping jacks to kind of wake yourself up, so sometimes going to the gym gets you into a different environment, and there's a process to that, which is great. But there are things you need to consider when you are like working from home or being in the office. But I do think it's important that you certainly invite the chemical change that activity brings into your body, like such as endorphins and serotonin, that I suppose help you feel better. They help you build your appetite, increase your mood. Like I know when I exercise, I'm able to listen to people better. When I'm not, I'm irritable and I just want to kind of work through things. And I think you need to find what works for you, or whatever that is.
Okay. And how much exercise should we do each week? Is there a number for that, or?
Yeah, so the World Health Organization offer guidelines around this, and they suggest that you should aim for around 30 minutes of moderate aerobic activity at least 5 times per week. Okay, so which is pretty achievable, right? Like it's only 30 minutes, so that's your walk, that's your that's your steps. It can be even it can be garden work, it can be something like that. So it's easy way to clock up that bit of time, but it's quite a bit. It's like 2.5 hours per week of moderate activity, which is interesting. But little things like regular movement breaks every 30 minutes are also can be key part of that. So if it's a light stretch or even a longer walk to the water cooler, or whatever it might be. I think that's really, really important, and people need to do more of it and get away from the unhealthy trends of stuck at the office and stuck at the desk, because it is counterproductive to yourself. It's counterproductive to your productivity, and it's actually counterproductive to the culture of an organization, because it's, you don't want people being proud of being stuck at the desk. We need to actually get to a stage where we're concerned for people that are, nailed to the desk for extensive period and so on. But all these things that I've mentioned, I suppose, help you move your body. They'll increase your circulation. They'll, help you remove distractions, and, I suppose ultimately sharpen your focus and your metabolism and your appetite and all these type of things. So people should really get up, get moving. People, I don't have to educate people on what the hell they have to do to get moving. I'm sure you all know what it is, but every 30 minutes you should be moving from if you're seated, a fixed seated position, which I think is a really achievable target. And 30 minutes 5 times a week. Do you think you could do that, Kes?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Hamza, do you do it?
Yeah, I could, but I was going to come to this with the movement and with the exercise, but I think it is very individualistic. And for me, I can't do something like that. For me, it's like I gotta have a sport. Like I go to the gym like 2-3 times a year, like 2 months a year, sorry, and that is like my thing. But then after that, I've got to do sports. So for me, having like a set regimen, I've got to do 30 minutes today. I can't do that. I rather do like 6 hours on the Saturday, and that's it for the week, kind of thing. So but I get your point. Like it is recommended to split it up, and obviously that's probably a more healthier way to do it. But I've just found a system that works for me, that I do a sport and any other kind of healthy activity either Saturday and the Sunday. So then that's my weekly kind of thing done.
Yeah. And that's another way to look at, like, your calorie intake. I think people probably need to get away from looking at it each day and looking at over the course of a week, because, Mondays are busy with family, with work, with your commute, with getting organized, getting the cooking and the shopping done. So like, there's no way you're going to get a 30-minute exercise in, let's say, perhaps, but you could double or triple up on a Saturday. And I think that's a healthy compromise. But like you said, Hamza, you need to find what works for you, but at least there's guidelines there for people to maybe align themselves to. So move.
Now, I see you also mentioned recovery. Why is this important?
Yeah, and I actually think this is probably one of the most important parts of high performance. From my time working with athletes, I can honestly say the difference between good teams and great teams, or teams that have maybe competed very well and teams that have gone on to win things. A lot of it is down to all teams train hard, all people work hard, but the best recover better, is what I think, is what I believe. So, but recovering is one of the most important elements of high performance. And I suppose it's underpinned in consistency. So how good you recover, especially after like a period of stress or competition or somewhere where you've been overreaching for a period of time, your recovery is just absolutely essential. And why it's important is because it allows your body to, I suppose, recharge, to re-energize and prepare for, the next event, the next day's activity, the next competition, whatever it is. And the faster you do that, the faster you're back to baseline of where you're in a position to perform. So I think people really need to understand that, because you've a hard day's work, and then you go out for a few drinks after, and you expect to come in the next day and perform. And like, I think it's crazy for people to not understand that. Like, if you've had a stressful day, you need to recover. You need to wash yourself off and get yourself back into a preparedness state where you're mentally and physically prepared to go to do a good day's graft again. And I think that's really, really important. And it really fascinates me when people don't maybe think that. They just kind of rock in, and like their body, if you look at your body like an iPhone, would you come into work with a 35% battery on your phone? Like you wouldn't, you wouldn't be expecting to get long out of the phone. But if you had to stretch it over the course of 8 hours, it wouldn't be much output. But if you put that in, a couple of days over the course of a month, multiply that by 12, multiply that by, the amount of years you're here. There's a lot of bad days or a lot of unproductive days, and that's probably not, counterintuitive to performance. So, so I think that's really, really, really important, like overall, because I think anyone can work hard, but the common trend for me within high performers is their ability to recover through tough periods. Okay, and I think that's what's essential.
And do you have any strategies to help with recovery?
Yeah, and I think this is really fascinating. Obviously, high performing, like from my time working with athletes, their recovery was cryotherapy chambers. It was like foam rolling, and it was massage and yoga and Bikram yoga and all these type of things. And they were.
But I hope ACT is listening, because we might need to get them in.
I think we should. I think the fifth floor should have a cryotherapy.
Andrew, if you're listening,
a cryotherapy chamber would be nice. But no, look, there's like, these are obviously the expensive ones and all these type of things. There's all sorts of spells, potions, and gizmos and gurus that can, give you stuff to, help you recover. But like, there is no magic recipe. Okay, everyone will have their own ways of wanting to do things. Like, I know people who are just staying at home and cooking is there or which is recovery and regeneration. I know others who like need to go out and do things, but I think it's important that you pay attention to your body. Okay, so when your body's feeling stressed, you're feeling overworked, you're feeling like you're overreaching and getting a bit fatigued, and notice the stressors that have been coming your way, whether they're mental, whether they're physical, whether they're things you can't control, maybe they're not. So I think, definitely being aware of yourself is key. But probably the most important part is sleep. And I think for me, it's something that I've really gotten better at sleep. Like, maybe a few years ago, I could operate at a high level on 6 hours sleep. Like, it would not bother me. But as I'm getting older now, like I now know that like getting to bed early, 8 hours sleep minimum is what I'm trying to do, and it's number one factor for your recovery. Okay, so and I'd actually be curious to see what the trend of staff is, and perhaps you guys is around that, because it's only, forget what you're eating and forget how much exercise or how much stress you have. If you've had a good night's sleep, I think that has the most significant contribution to your preparedness for the day ahead is your sleep. And another part of this is there's a term of active recovery. So when I worked with athletes, they would have did a heavy training week, and then maybe they'd have a competitive fixture, and people think the day after an All-Ireland semi-final is a day off for the guys to recover. But no, there's actually active recovery planned, and then they would have a day off. So the day after is so important, because they'd have active rest. So active rest it's basically low intensity and social activity that's kind of easy to sustain, and it gives you kind of the chemical endorphins that's really important to feel good and feel energized. So they say actually active rest can get you back to a state of physical preparedness faster than full rest. Okay, so doing something is better than doing nothing in terms of building your energy back up as well, which is an interesting phenomenon. So it's superior then to taking a day off, and that can be like a cycle, it can be a hike, it can be a really low intensity jog, or even catching up with someone, or even swimming. Sea swimming very popular, the cold immersion, that type of stuff, and that gets rid of inflammation and things like that. But I do think with regular attention to your recovery, okay, so listening to your body, you can build up more resilience, because you're able to bounce back from stress. Okay, stress in work, maybe a bad day at the office, by getting in tune with your body and not just breaking it down, but building it up through recovery. Okay, and I think that's really, really important. And a big thing, actually, going back to sleep as well, is, and I'm constantly talking about this, but everyone I talk to doesn't seem to do it. But the key to a good night's sleep is a really cold room. Okay, so I don't know if people just kind of go to sleep, you don't really prepare for bed, and I think that's an important thing to look at, is to have your wind down time, is to don't be watching TV in bed, or have the room really, really cool, or try to get to bed before 10 a.m, limiting your caffeine. turning off the electronics. All those are really, really important. And these are part of your strategies for building up a recovery culture with yourself, and building up the focus towards the next day. Because once it kind of reaches, I don't know, 9-10 o'clock, you need to say, right, I need to start getting ready for the next day. And every kind of 30 minutes you stay up, you're taking energy from the next day. And I think that's a really important thing. I know when I was playing sports at a high level, every 30 minutes would take, maybe 5% of your energy for the next day if you're staying up past maybe 10:30. And that was I think that's really, really important. And I think they're like values and kind of practices that will maybe help people perform better in the workplace overall. So that's recovery, and I think it's really, really important.
Wow. I have a question for Hamza. How long does it take for you to recover after 6 hours of exercise on a Saturday?
It depends. So I've been playing cricket Saturdays and Sundays in Ramadan while fasting.
Wow.
And
wow.
It's really weird that the first 2 days of like Ramadan were very difficult, because you realize that you're only eating and snacking because you're bored or because it's part of your habit. So you realize that, you reach for something because it's just a habit. And it goes back to psychology, where it's that delayed gratification, like where it's like, you know what, I can't eat now, so I'm going to eat in a couple hours. And then that, so it's already out of your head. So like when I'm playing in the match, people who aren't fasting there, they'd be drinking water or they'd be having their lunch break or whatever, and I'd be fine sitting there, and I'm like, I have no problem. Like if someone else is eating around me, I know that it's training for me that I'm not going to do it because I'm fasting. So then what happens is that when you come back from it, like normally, like when I'd be done playing cricket or playing golf or whatever, I'd come back home and have like a really big meal straight away. But I don't have that when I'm fasting, because I come back and I still have to wait the 2 hours now to go and eat. And it's actually almost better, because your body is using its energy to recover rather than digest. Because what ends up happening is that all the food that you've eaten, like you think that's actually helping you recover, but it actually isn't. You wake up feeling way more groggier. You wake up feeling way more ache, because all the energy that could have been going to repair your muscles, to repair your joints, is all going to digesting your food. And that's why they suggest that you shouldn't eat really, really, really late nights either, because that's not good for your recovery. So you shouldn't eat any big meals at least 2 hours before you go to bed, because that'll actually, stop you from getting a good night's sleep. So there's a lot of things that go into that, and it's about finding something that works for you. Not all of this works for everyone, and it's about trying different things and then seeing what works for you. It's like, and I've said this to Adam, and he always laughs at this, and I'm going to reveal it now for the rest of the staff members. I have to have a yogurt before I go to bed, and it's the weirdest thing. I just have to have it. And no matter what the time or whatever, I just have to have it. So when I'm getting ready to go up to bed, I'll go to the fridge and I'll grab a little spoon and I'll grab a yogurt and I'll put it right beside my bed. And then literally the last thing before I sleep is I have the little yogurt. And it's just the most bizarre thing. But it's just like a ritual that's come out, that once I have the yogurt, I know it's now my brain's going to switch off now, because it knows once you have the yogurt, it's like Pavlovian dog conditioning on myself, where it's like, oh yeah, have the yogurt, time to go to bed. And literally it's like that, and it just became this thing. So find what works for you and get into the rhythm and creating good habits. I think that's the big takeaway from this, is creating good habits and getting into a right mindset.
Do you brush your teeth before or after your yogurt?
Well, it depends how hungry I am or how tired I am. But usually I do. I brush it beforehand. Okay. Which is even weirder. I know.
Because it's all minty then, like.
No, but it's not that kind of yogurt. Sometimes it's like
the toothpaste is minty, not the yogurt.
Here, I've drank orange juice after brushing my teeth, so I'm not a stranger to danger. Bad boy.
Right. So
yeah, find what works for you. Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to add anything else, Adam?
No, that's my 4 points on the mindset, nutrition, movement, and recovery. So I hope people have enjoyed, and I hope people maybe take 1 or 2 takeaways today from maybe 1 or 2 of the pillars, and kind of apply it to their own lives, their own maybe athletic lives, personal lives, or even their own work lives. And hopefully they'll, aim to have a more high performing day and better themselves and better those around them, because hopefully together we can, I suppose, build a culture of, performers and high achievers, and I suppose ultimately more positivity and togetherness within the organization. I think that's things that can only make big improvements for everyone.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Hamza, for your time. And thank you guys for tuning into this lightning talk. And we hope that you can use the 4 pillars of high performance to kickstart your workplace wellness going forward. And have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.